Welcome to Let's Talk Nation. I'm your man, Rod Love. Hey, we got nothing other than the General Attorney Greg Jackson sitting in the studio.
Once again, it's on, Brother Love. How you know how we get this thing started, man? How was this week for you this past week?
Hey, man, this past week was great, Greg. Matter of fact, man, I got to dive into the fact that the 6 o'clock show, man, we had a brother in here by the name of Antoine Henry talking about the Central Florida Responsible Fatherhood Initiative. And man, I tell you, that brother was inspiring. So,
Nice.
the week was good, weekend was great, but man, I tell you, just looking at people, man, who are doing things to inspire, the brother was right on point, man. And he had some backup, man, with some other brothers, man, that are experiencing some issues about how to better engage to be responsible fathers, man. And you know what? I'll give kudos to that conversation any day.
Listen, you always have to support anytime you have someone that is wanting to step up or want to encourage men to be men and men to be fathers, man. That is always a positive thing
Yeah,
to,
you're right. You're right.
to promote. So.
Greg, what about your weekend, man? How was last week, your weekend, man? Everything?
Man, no complaints, man. No complaints. I went and hung out with my parents for a little bit over in Jacksonville, my wife
Okay.
and I, and just had some good food, good company, and then had to get back over here. And
So who was cooking?
well, nobody went to a restaurant.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
no,
okay,
no.
okay.
Hey, speaking of time for folks to step up,
Hey, I see that. What's that? Greg Jackson?
Put that down, Doc. Put
Doc.
that down, man.
Doc, you something else, man.
Hey, that's a good look, though, man. That's a good look.
Hey, Doc, I'm looking for the moment that we can get behind him on that again.
that's the only brother I know could get my crippled butt out the house and walk some miles for him.
Hey, we did that too, Doc. Man, we did that for real. Man, I
Hey.
think we clocked like 400 miles at the end of it all.
Man.
So, yeah, on
Man.
foot, man, on foot. So.
That's
And
all
I was
right.
out there with a cane and everything. Almost got a wheelchair one weekend.
Hey, that would have got me them extra 2,000 votes. You would have pulled out the wheelchair. Oh man, hey Doc, going back, bringing back some history on that one, man.
I see. Hey, so Greg, man, I want us to pace ourselves, but I don't know why it is we get down to the tail end of the show, and I have to do that rapid fire stuff on you.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I like it, but I don't like it sometimes.
Listen, man, it's a lot that's going on, and people want to know, what's going on and what's the happenings are. So sometimes we get wrapped up into some conversations that even we ourselves just have to delve into, and so it forces us to either do a rapid fire or to do a revisit of the topic the following week, which is what we're gonna kind of do this week as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely right. So, Greg, let me open us up, man. Oh, but you know what? I can't do that without you letting people know who they listening to tonight.
Listen, Brother Love, in case they didn't know, right now they're tuned in to two of the most influential voices in Central Florida on a Monday night podcast, Brother Love and Greg Jackson, the dynamic duo guaranteed to raise your IQ 15 to 20 points. Of Brother Love on some nights, we're going to raise it 25 to 30. If they want to be a part of the night show, Brother Love, all they got to do is hit 407-921-6195, or they can go to Facebook, they can chat with us, they can put in all their little comments, and we'll respond along with Dr. Light and with Brother Armando. And so if you want to be a part of the night show, all you got to do is do that. But Brother Love, it's time for us to say let's
Get it on. All right. Well, we're going to get it on, all right. And by getting it on, man, Greg, Trump signs the EO to dismantle the Department of Education. Let people know.
This is an interesting conversation, and it lines up with some of the things, or at least one of the big campaign promises that Trump mentioned when he was running
Wait,
for
some
office.
people sitting around saying, what is EO? Let them tell the executive order.
Executive order. That's right.
Okay.
That's right. You said EO, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Well, I got to define what you talking about.
Okay. Well, so I told him. But because I said that, Greg, let people know what a executive order is good for and how long.
I mean,
It lasts.
executive orders can last indefinitely, but typically they last just throughout the term of the president or the individual who is in office at that particular time. An executive order allows a president to set policy, so to speak, and in some instances to change laws or to change direction as to how the government is run and how things are done and how budgets may be affected and things of that nature. And in this particular case, this executive order is seeking to address a entity a governmental agency that was actually enacted by Congress in 1979.
Okay.
And so what he has said is, and what Trump said is that he wanted to give the power back to the parents to lead and to determine how their kids are going to be educated. He wanted to take certain initiatives out of the schools. We hear here in the state of Florida, the DEI and different things like that. He wanted to take those types of initiatives and government dollars being spent on those types of initiatives and allow the states to determine how their students are going to be educated in their individual states. And so as a part of doing that, he has decided that he wants to dismantle the Department of Education.
So what does the White House fact sheet specifically say? What is it saying?
So listen, anytime you want to have an idea as to why an administration is doing anything, typically you should be able to go to the White House website and figure out and find out why they're doing certain things. Now, the last administration, it wasn't as transparent, and this is not me saying this. This is the media saying this. This is just me and Brother Love regurgitating what the media is saying. But in this particular case, on the White House website, it basically talks about the executive order directs the Secretary of Education to take all necessary steps to facilitate the closure of the Department of Education and return education authority to the states, while continuing to ensure that the effective and uninterrupted delivery of services, programs, and benefits on American state in which Americans rely upon. Now, the big question is, Brother Love, is what's going to happen to certain programs because the Department of Education is not just for grade level and secondary education, it's also for college. And so there's certain programs such as a Pell Grant, and people are wondering, well, what happens with that type of funding? And although the agency is being dismantled, or there's a move to dismantle the agency, there's not going to be any move to remove those programs to allow students to get money for education and for school. It'll fall up under a different department.
Okay, so it'll shift to another agency.
Exactly. So similar to, in case most folks have not heard, the Postal Service. There is efforts to reduce the Postal Service and to potentially privatize the Postal Service. That's why the head of the Postal Service recently resigned, or has indicated he's going to resign, because what they're doing is they're saying that certain services under the post office is going to be paid for and moved under other departments, such as the Department of Commerce.
Yeah.
And we've seen this with other things with this administration, with DOGE, finding that there is some waste, and dare I say fraud and abuse with certain spending. So they're moving how these monies are being spent and under whom's direction it's going to fall under, such as the USAID as well.
Okay, great. Something that caught my eye, man, when you talk about the White House fact sheet, has been the subject of bureaucracy and empowering families. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Well, I mean, one of the things, if we just kind of go here, basically says that since the relatively recent inception of the Department of Education, which again was done in 1979, which does not directly educate students, it has spent over $3 trillion without improving student achievement as measured by standardized national assessment of educational progress. And so what this is saying is that the Department of Education, while it is continuing to grow, while it is continuing to get money, is not being effective in how it's educating our students here in this country.
Greg, the question I have, and I don't know if we have the answer to it or not, and that is when people are hearing about the Department of Education at the federal level, first thing that they're thinking about is the funding that comes from the federal government.
Right.
And I'm gonna just say, I was one who was thinking, man, there's a ton of money that states get from the federal government that would cripple states' education.
Right.
But what I learned is, on the average, states are getting anywhere from 10 to about 12% of their budgets from the federal government
For education.
for education. So if that's the case, Greg, and I know when you look at it on a state basis, is that money going to come from the federal government directly to states, or do states have to look at other revenue sources to make up for that 10%?
I mean, so my understanding is this: as I said, a lot of the funding is not going to go away. It's
Okay.
just going to fall under the authority of different agencies and not the Department of Education. And so, if I'm reading this correctly, the monies or the funds will still be available to the states, but under a different department or under a different agency. Now, invariably what will probably happen, and what I believe may happen, is that there will be a reduction in what states will receive. And for that shortfall, states will have to determine how they're going to make up for those funds. Now, here in the state of Florida, and many other states, they have this great little system called the lottery system. And here in the state of Florida, our lottery system raises billions of dollars every year. I'm not saying billions of dollars for education, but in terms of the game and what people spend, there are billions of dollars that come into the state. Is there, or could there be an effort to increase the amount that comes from, from the lottery system? And from other systems. I mean, we also have, when any time a developer comes in and builds in different areas, while it may be a county level assessment, you have assessments that builders have to pay that affect and help to put money into educational funds. So impact taxes and things of that nature. And so that may be a way for the state through the lottery system in the state of Florida, or through impact fees on the county level to offset any monies that may be missed.
Great, something interesting. I mean, and I'm glad we're talking from fact sheet. So I mean, this is not something that we're making up, but something else that caught my eye when I look at mathematics and reading scores are down in public schools, despite the per pupil spending having increased by more than 245% since the 1970s, indicating that more spending does not mean better outcomes.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you this. I think that while I think that kids can still do math on the level that we could do it back when I was coming up, like I said, in high school I was up in calculus. When I went to college, I was Cal 2 and things like that. So I was good at math. I was decent at math, despite what I showed. I was actually pretty good at math.
Gotcha.
I mean, so I'm gonna say that. And it shocks me and surprises me that you can walk into somewhere like a Chick-fil-A and kids can't even do math in their head, like simple math in their head. Like if like right now, if I give somebody some money, I can tell them what my change is before they can do it on their little computer and do their little thing. And that's the part of mathematics that I think is kind of shocking to me, is that we're too reliant on, or these kids nowadays are too reliant on what a computer tells them as opposed to them being able to do it themselves. And because of that, I think we're seeing less of a proficiency in mathematics, which also spills over into other areas that kids are less proficient in, science, and things of that nature, to where even if you spend the money to get more technology, the kids aren't any smarter or wiser on how to do things.
And great, that's interesting, and I don't want to throw us off on the conversation, but
Listen, we got plenty of time, according to Dr. Light.
yeah. But great, man, you know what I attribute some of that to?
What's that?
Is the fact that during our era, you actually had people that were selling encyclopedias. You actually had folks sitting down trying to work no math problems out. But now, Greg, I didn't have Alexa. I didn't have Google. I didn't have those things.
ChatGPT.
Yeah, ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So, do you attribute?
Listen, we didn't even have internet.
You know what
I'm saying? I mean, so we couldn't even, go to Google and look up things back in the day. You're right. We had the encyclopedia where we had to actually read this stuff, and it wasn't. And listen, all you kids out there, which I don't suspect there are a lot of them, so your parents are listening. Back in the day, if we had a question about something, we had to physically go to a book and read to get to the topic that we wanted to get to. We couldn't go to a search engine and type in that word and something pops up and populates.
You're right.
And shows us everything. We had to actually spend time in learning this stuff. And I think that that's why, although, kids are smarter nowadays, and I don't think they're much smarter, I think that they have accessibility to things that we didn't have access to. But they're not as wise as our generation is or was at their age.
Well, according to the fact sheet, go ahead and talk about 13-year-olds now in mathematics.
Listen, I mean, they're at a 30-year low. Well, no, that's the reading that's at a 30-year low. Mathematics, where is this? 250%. Well, I mean, it's the lowest in decades. I mean, that's what I'm seeing here. But, I mean, mathematics, reading, science, I mean, if you look at any subject, despite the fact that the Department of Education is getting more and more money, it's not improving.
13-year-olds in reading scores, Greg? No.
For a 30-year low. Yeah, it's not improving. Their performance on these standardized tests. So, I don't know. I don't know if dismantling the Department of Education is it, but I don't know if maintaining the Department of Education in its current status is the answer.
So I mean, the conversation about does more money bring better outcomes?
It should.
You would think so,
Yeah.
but based on this, it doesn't.
But it depends.
doesn't.
It depends on how the money is being spent, and in large part, what we've seen, with Doge, is that money is being put into and spent on programs, that are not benefiting the learning of our young kids. I mean, I think they said that there was a lot of money that went towards, Title IX programs that are going away. A lot of money is going towards, promoting and supporting certain agendas that taxpayers are not in agreement with. And so, yeah, a lot of money is being put into it, but the money is not being spent in a way that affects positively the learning of our students.
So with that, Greg, and here's a pet peeve of mine, and you already know it. Doc knows it. A lot of what's been discussed, and a lot of it's on the fact sheet too, is that at the federal level, as it relates to education, the regulatory process burdens the state school system down with more paperwork than is
And that's it, and that's I think that's what they're trying to get rid of. You got to think about this.
Doc, speak in the mic.
I'm talking in the mic. You can't hear me? Okay. What happened was the Department of Education was established in 1980. Okay. And since then, we've seen a steady increase in special interest in selling textbooks, program testing, and all of this kind of stuff. It has exploded versus when I graduated in 1980. So we didn't go through all of that same structure of having all of these outside entities. I think it's a good thing. The only pause I have about it is the previous history of kind of segregation. Where do the states go? That would be my concern about it. But you got to remember, this wasn't a agency that's been around forever. Okay, and it has done more harm than actually good. It was intended to create a standard, but it's failed to do that. All it's done is introduce more special interests into the education system.
So Doc, Doc, when you talk about special interest, and Greg, this is open to you as well. Does that incorporate a lot of these ideological initiatives?
Yes.
That come up.
That's exactly what I mean. You have people with agendas now injecting things that have nothing to do with the foundational education needs of anyone. We don't need people in the education system telling you about alternative lifestyles and all of this other stuff that has nothing to do with reading, writing, and arithmetic. That was the golden standard when I was in school: reading, writing, and arithmetic. They taught home ec, how to take care of your house, how to have a budget. They taught basic life skills, not alternative lifestyles. They taught life skills. See, anybody can learn to iron and cook, regardless of if you a man in a dress or a woman in a suit. It doesn't matter. Everybody need to cook. Everybody need to wash their clothes. See, and that's what we need to get back to. Make education about education. It shouldn't be about sexualization, lifestyle indoctrination, and any of those things. That's done at home. If you don't teach your kids at home who they are, then teachers have no business and no moral ground in which to tell children's lifestyle.
Hey, so let me try Greg, what's your thoughts about what do you call it? Progressive social experiments.
I mean, I think the doc is on point with that because, I mean, how much money has been spent on us determining how many genders there are and telling us that there's more than two genders when, scientifically that is not the case. But there's a lot of money being spent
And energy.
and time that's being spent to do that. But I mean, anytime there's money that's being spent and people have an opportunity to put forth their agendas, they're going to do it. And unfortunately, we found that education is one of those places where people want to push forth their agendas. And so a lot of money is being spent unnecessarily, and there's a lot of waste and fraud and abuse from what we've found and what we've seen. I mean, you know, even just from the numbers that it's talking about here, what is it, like $1 trillion, well, not $1 trillion, I'm sorry, but $1 billion in grants focused on entrenching radical ideologies in education was wasted by the Biden administration, according to the White House fact sheets. Now, you know, I'm sure they have the numbers to support that, but the fact of the matter is, there's a lot of money that's going towards supporting ideologies that have nothing to do with math, science, and things of that nature.
And just to go back to a topic we talked about, I went and researched it. When you went to France the other week, that was in fact a gender neutral bathroom you were at. Y'all just didn't treat it like that because y'all were tourists.
Hey, you
But
still talking about the
this is,
bathroom?
yeah.
I told
hey.
you it was a gender. I told you men and
No,
women
you
can
said
go in the
you
bathroom.
said unisex, but you waited outside. You don't have to do that in those.
I
Gender
wasn't going to
neutral.
no bathroom with no little girl. I don't care where it is.
Oh, okay.
I'm not.
Oh,
and it was
okay.
only
I
one, listen, you
misunderstood
wasn't
you
even
then.
there. Hey, you wasn't even there. It was one toilet and one sink. What I go? What two people doing there
Oh,
with one toilet and one
well,
sink?
yeah, okay. I get it, man.
We
All right.
still talking about the
All right.
bathroom.
Hey, hey, no, hey, I'm checking it out because I plan on going to Paris and to Germany this summer. So
When? Hey, let me know when you go, man.
I'm looking at June, the middle of June or so, and go for a week. I'm going to go to my old duty stations and then shoot over to Paris. I wish I had enough time to go down to Nice. When you go back, you got to go to Nice. I don't know if y'all ever been to the Mediterranean, but
Never
it
been,
is
but
something.
listen, I'm
It
about to
is
check it out.
something beautiful.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I will say to everybody, I mean, if you want to get more information, I would go look at this fact sheet.
Yeah.
I would. I mean, whether you
And
agree or
listen,
disagree
listen,
with it.
it's like whatever we talk about. There are the sources, and we can give you the sources. Where to find this stuff? Just like last week, we were talking about Doge. Go to the website.
Yeah,
Read it. If you don't agree with something, do your research.
you're right.
You can always agree or disagree, but make sure that it's based on facts and based on your own research. Don't listen to us. Please don't listen to us.
And be informed.
Be
That-
informed.
that's-
And that's what this is all about, is helping you to be informed about what's out there and why the President of these United States has signed an executive order to dismantle the Department of Education. And really and truly understand what that means. Don't just listen to the teachers union. Don't just listen to the White House. Don't just listen to Brother Love and myself. Do your own research and look at what has happened in this country and make a determination on what your thoughts and feelings are about it.
You're right. You're right. Hey, Greg, let me ask you this:
Yes, sir.
Colombia has bowed to the federal demands after losing $400 million in funding. Well, tell us a little bit more about that.
So, you know, last week we talked about the fact that Marco Rubio was making some efforts to remove a student who had started protests at Columbia University. He is currently in an ICE facility, I want to say in Louisiana or New Orleans or something like that. And he is awaiting hearings before an immigration judge to determine if he can be expelled from the United States, which that's the proper procedure to follow when someone has a green card or a visa or something of that nature. And it is probably going to be a foregone conclusion that he's going to be removed because the Secretary of the Department of State has that ability to do so, has the authority to do so. Now, when efforts were made to go and find this gentleman who was spewing hate on Columbia University's campus and has a history of spewing hate and anti-Semitic messages on that campus. And listen, I don't care if it's anti-Semitic or anti-black. I don't think that hate has any place on any university campus. It just so happens that in this case it was anti-Semitic. But when they made that determination, they went to remove him, and they found that not only was he supporting Hamas, but he was also part of different organizations who supported Hamas and supported terrorist organizations who are against these United States, and that he lied about these things on his applications to get his visa. So that's the problem also. And so Columbia University's students, as well as some of the faculty, decided that they were going to protest and they were going to stage these protests and speak out against the student being removed from the United States, despite the fact that they had the information to show that he was supporting organizations that are against the United States, which he should not, and vowed that he would not do when he entered into this country. And so as a part of that, Columbia University is showing their support for the student. showing an unwillingness to change its policy towards hate being spewed on this campus, particularly against Jewish American students in this particular case. The Trump administration indicated that they were going to remove $400 million of funding, federal funding, from Columbia University. Now, Columbia University at first beat their chest and we, take your money and all this other stuff, but then they quickly realized that $400 million is a lot of money.
Right.
And it's a lot of money when it goes into the fact that it could also affect your non-taxable status as an educational institution, or what can be taxed or what you can write off on taxes. So Columbia University has decided, hey, you know what? We think that we want to maintain our good relationship with the U.S. government. We believe that the U.S. government does have the ability to do so, despite the fact that Columbia faculty and students are still protesting for whatever the reason. That's their right. But Columbia University said, okay, you know what? So what we're going to do is we're going to require individuals to protest, or who protest, to remove their face masks, because we want to see who they are.
Yeah.
To make sure, number one, that we can identify these people, because that's, if they're here on student visas or on green cards, a part of what they're not supposed to do is participate in these types of activities. That's first and foremost. The other thing they said that they would do, that they would require that any time a student in part or take a participation in a protest is asked for their ID, that student has to produce their ID. Because again, if you're here in the United States on a student visa or with a green card, you're not supposed to participate in certain activities. They've also indicated that in addition to those things, that they're also going to overhaul their Middle Eastern, their South Asia, and their African Studies departments, because what they have found and what they have been told is that they have professors or instructors in those departments who are radicalizing or giving, their words not mine, but they're giving radicalized messages to these young students, to where they feel that it's okay to do what this man did, which was to speak hate against these United States, a country that had issued him a student visa to be educated and to live in this country, and to lie about his status as a person who participates in organizations that are terrorists or that are against the United States.
And Greg, you got into some detail and some real good specific detail, but you know what? Help me with this. I'm going to bring it down to another level of what I would call simplification.
Okay,
These universities also happen to be private property.
that is correct.
So when you talk about some of the things that you mentioned, removing masks, showing identification and things of that nature, Greg, again, universities can request or demand this, because if not, you can protest off the site.
Right.
So I think another important factor when people say, how can they tell a person to remove the mask, and well, you can protest, but you're probably going to be on the sidewalk in the easement
Right.
off of private property.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I mean, but if you ever been to Columbia University, you'll see that a lot of it is surrounded by public property.
No, okay.
And so even if they were to, protest just on the sidewalk, I mean, it's right there on that campus. The only reason why I know that is because my sister cousin, my cousin who we were raised like brother and sister, she actually went to Columbia. So I spent some winters and a couple summer months up in New York, up in Manhattan, hanging out with my cousins. So I just kind of know that just from that experience. But nonetheless, Columbia University has found that listen, it's better to receive these funds and to follow suit with what's being asked and to continue to fight.
And I'm sure other changes are probably coming as well.
There are other changes. As a matter of fact, there were 9 stipulations or 9 demands made by I shouldn't say demands. There were 9 stipulations outlined by the federal government. Those are only 2 that I mentioned. The other 9, they will make a determination if they're going to follow suit with those as well.
Okay. Hey, Greg, here's something else, man, that everybody's talking about. You can't miss a news cycle without talking about this, and that is the future of the Democratic Party. What's your thoughts on it? And a lot of it started, Greg, with former presidential candidate Harris.
Yeah. So I mean, listen, we've been talking about this. We hit on this a little bit last week. And I think that I have cautioned my friend here to my right, who is actually a Republican, not to get too comfortable with the fact that the Republicans have the White House, the House, and the Senate, because there is a good chance that us Democrats will actually learn from our mistakes. we might.
You might.
We might just learn from our mistakes. And to the extent that we do, I believe that, as Hakeem Jeffries has said, that there will be a shift in the House in 2026.
Okay, I gotta ask you this, and I gotta
Yeah.
take a detour.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you saw it. AOC and man, I would have never thought a tag team like this would be taking place. But AOC and Bernie Sanders.
Why would you think that would be a tag team?
I say I would never imagine
Why
that.
not?
I just don't see that pair together. I just don't, man.
Now, in terms of what now? You're talking about in terms of like a ticket?
Well, they wasn't together when they were doing this public speak. What they were together doing, talking about Democrats actually learning how to fight and push back. Bernie Sanders been saying it since forever.
That's what I'm saying. No, they've been talking the same language since AOC got into the House.
Maybe
Even though now, but listen, let's be clear about this now. Bernie Sanders is not a Democrat.
correct.
And I don't know why Democrats continue to lean on him as a Democrat. He is not a Democrat. He's an independent who caucuses with the Democrats, meaning that he meets with them. He kind of follows their agenda and different things like that. But he is not a Democrat. But if you listen to Bernie Sanders and AOC, even from the first time that she got into office, they've been saying pretty much the same things. I mean, the New Green Deal that AOC, her and the squad pretty much crafted was supported by Bernie Sanders.
Great. The squad is not completely the squad anymore, is it?
Nah, I mean, listen, they've lost a little bit of steam. I forget who it was that they lost out of that team, but yeah, they are.
And when you say lost out of that team, you mean lost their re-election.
Right. That's right.
Okay.
That's right. But to go to your question, Brother Love, with regards to the future of the Democrat Party, you're absolutely right. There was a recent poll that was taken. And in that recent poll, it showed that I want to say 36% of the individuals polled indicated that Kamala Harris is still the front runner as the Democratic presidential nominee for the primaries.
But why would that be? I mean, would that be because all of the earned and paid media as she navigated during the presidential campaign? To me, that would be the only reason, Greg.
And listen, that is the only reason. I mean, right now she is the Democrat who has so far raised the most money, who has the most name recognition, who has recently come off of a campaign, albeit a failed campaign. So that's the name that people know. So 36% of the people have said, "Hey, listen, we would support." In this survey now, in this survey, have said we'll support Kamala Harris if she were to run. Now, 10% have actually said that they would, and that's a big jump between 30%. 36% and 10%.
Yeah.
But 10% have said that they would back Buttigieg, which I think is interesting to say the least, because he was probably one of the most absent of the cabinet members, aside from Lloyd Austin, who went and had surgery and was gone for 2 weeks or a month without anybody knowing where he was. Buttigieg was similar, where he would disappear from time to time. But it surprised me that 10% of the voters said that they would support Buttigieg.
Tell me about the 5%.
So now the 5%, what's interesting about the 5% is that there were 3 people tied for 5%. Those three, Tim Walz, who was the former
Minnesota
governor, but
no,
also
he's still the Minnesota
He
governor.
was
Yeah.
the former running mate of Kamala Harris. You also have Gavin Newsom, who is the current governor of California, and then you have AOC. So a lot of people are saying that they believe that AOC may become the face of the Democratic Party, which I personally think would be a mistake. I think that she is too far to the left, not close enough to the center, in order to garner the support.
I think Newsom would be a mistake too. Tim Walz, I don't see how he even got in that 5%. But then I guess if you look back at the earned and paid media when he was a running mate, then okay, you have to give it to him.
But listen though, Gavin Newsom, to his political expedient credit, has been moving closer to the center. He has been making moves that would give an indication that he may be positioning himself to run in 2028, because now he's saying things that may give some indication. I'm trying to remember some things specifically, but he's saying some things now that may give some indication that he may try to appeal to the centrists in the Democratic Party.
And well, okay, I'm not going to get into this, but if you look at his state, if you look at the fact that you have corporations running from his state because of all the taxes. If you look at homelessness in his state, man, major issue. If you look at environmental issues as it relates to just water resources in his state, Greg, just those things alone, I think he has a hill to climb.
Yeah, he does. I mean, and the fact that he was tied for third on this list gives you an indication that he has a hill to climb. But I mean, listen, but look, stranger things
You're right.
have happened. I mean, we had a presidential candidate on the Democratic side who did not even go through a single primary.
Mm-hmm.
We had a presidential candidate on the Democratic side who, when they did run for president, did not go through a single primary.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they dropped out before, and that became the perennial front runner for the Democratic Party. So, Gavin Newsom, a governor in the state of California. He's from what I understand a likable enough guy. He may be able to get the nod.
I think one of the honorable mentions is, is possibly more. I mean, that can actually move the needle more. And who's one of those? Well, it's two honorable
Yeah, it's
mentions.
two. So one of the ones, just kind of like a no-brainer, so to speak, would be Josh Shapiro, who is the governor of Pennsylvania. He was very vocal against President Trump in this election, and they thought that would be enough to sway Pennsylvania from Trump, but it was not. And so I think he's lost some political power from that.
And that's not the one I'm talking about. But you leading up.
Yeah. But the other honorable mention is none other than Mr. Shark Tank himself, the former owner of the Dallas Mavericks, Mark Cuban.
You're right.
And so, listen, Mark Cuban in this last election, he started to find his political chops when he would speak against Donald Trump, and he was posting some messages and things like that, kind of upping his profile from a political standpoint. He had never really done that type of commentary in that way. I mean, he's always kind of had his hands on the periphery of campaigns with donated money and different things like that, of saying he was supporting people. But he was more so talking policy issues when Donald Trump was running and things of that nature. But I think that he has also seen the popularity of Elon Musk, and he possibly feels that in conjunction with the fact that we now have a president who has won 2 times, who is a former television personality, much the same way that Mark Cuban was. Is he still on Shark Tank or no?
I
don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question.
But listen, so Mark Cuban may be looking at this and saying, hey, if he can do it, I can do it. You know what I'm saying?
It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'm a billionaire. You know what I'm saying? I'm self-made. I had a television show. I run businesses. I have some
Reality TV.
Listen, so Mark Cuban, listen, and who knows? Who knows? It may be something that may very well come to fruition.
So, Greg, let me, and by the way, you do know, and I don't know if it's just jokingly or what have you, you got Stephen A. Smith out here talking about, a run for it, but I don't think that's gonna happen. But Greg,
I mean, what 12 people will Stephen A. Smith get to vote for?
what 12 people?
Yeah.
Hey, well, Greg, many Democrat donors are uncertain about the upcoming elections and real hesitant to get behind a lot of these candidates, man. What you think about that?
I mean, listen, let's look at what we saw with this last election. I think that a lot of Democrats, including myself, felt as if we were lied to. We were told, first and foremost, that Joe Biden was the best version of himself that we had ever seen, when that wasn't true. We were told that Kamala Harris was the best candidate and that she was going to beat Donald Trump, when internally we found out that there was not a single internal poll that she did that showed her winning. We were told that the economy was not as bad as we thought it was. We were told that a number of things as Democrats that we do not believe now. And so the fact that the party seems to be imploding on itself, there's no, I know that Hakeem Jeffries is the minority leader in the House. Schumer is the minority leader in the Senate. And they can't even agree with each other. Democrats can't seem to agree with each other on certain things, and they're being more vocal about it. That people are very hesitant to get behind any of the candidates because they don't know, out of those names, aside from Mark Cuban and Josh Shapiro, out of those names, who at all can galvanize this party again.
So Greg, you're speaking to the enthusiasm of donors. If they don't see that folk are moving voters, then them dollars start drying up.
Listen, and there's no reason for them to. We just had a major Democrat donor, not just, but shortly after the election, we had a major Democrat donor who said that her family felt that they were lied to by Kamala Harris. The fact that Kamala Harris, after coming off of a presidential campaign, is only supported by 36% of a vote in this particular survey is an indication that people don't even believe that she could win if she were to run again in 2028, and they're looking for alternatives. But the Democrat Party is not putting forward any viable alternatives right now.
So here's a question for you, Greg, and Doc. I know Doc is back there, and he might want to weigh in on this. But Greg, during this last presidential election cycle, there was this advocacy, if you would. There was this campaign, if you would, for the first time that we've seen, addressing black men.
Okay.
And you and I, we've been critical before in the past about how funding in the state of Florida, as it relates to, and I'm gonna take my wounds on this as well, but funding to address the African American community in both parties as it relates to the lack of addressing that population to sway them at all. And so, with that being the case, we saw a campaign for black men. What do you think?
Did we really say campaign?
Well, we saw. Well, I guess we saw an appeal or a plea.
Yeah, I don't think we saw a real campaign. No, when I think of campaigns, I think about what they do in the Hispanic communities or what they do in the Asian American communities, where they actually put monies into those communities to educate those voters and to bring them out and to show them why it is that they should be supporting certain parties or certain positions. I saw them bring out Magic Johnson. I saw them bring out Barack Obama. I saw them bring out other political figures to chastise.
But who were they? Well, yeah, to chastise.
Black
Okay.
men, but that's not a campaign.
Okay. I got you.
That's them trying to embarrass us. That's them trying to guilt us into voting for someone that they didn't even believe.
So based on this,
candidate.
so based on that failed experiment, and it failed terribly. What do you anticipate the playbook is going to be to appeal not to just black men but to the black electorate?
I mean, no one knows at this point. The Democratic Party has not tipped his hand at all to give any indication if they are going to take seriously that they need to actually court the African American male vote. What I think that they're going to try to do, as they've done in the past, and listen, y'all have to forgive me for this, and I apologize for those who I may offend, but they feel that they can just tell the black females to tell us what to do, and that's what we're going to do. Yes, the black women have been the backbone of the black family for a number of years, but that's until the black man has stepped up and say, listen, in much the same way that that other men have been the patriarchs and the leaders of their homes and their communities, we're going to be the same thing. And so you can't just tell us, well, black women, like Barack Obama came out, oh, y'all better be glad Michelle's not here. Why? What Michelle's gonna do? Yeah. But you may be afraid to have a difference of opinion with your wife, but that doesn't mean that I am. Your wife doesn't tell me what to do, just like my wife doesn't tell me what to do, and I don't tell my wife what to do. We are a unit to where we can make decisions together, or we can make decisions separately. But my wife is not going to guilt me, or my daughter either. They try, but guess what? They ain't going to guilt me or shame me to do anything. I'm my own person, and I'm going to say and I'm going to think and do whatever I want to.
And
See,
Doc,
she had to watch. She had to watch it.
Huh?
But no, Greg's wife is a sweetheart. And I agree with you, because don't chastise me. That's not going to work. Okay, you're not going to intimidate me or make me feel ashamed about a choice that I make as an adult, because I'm going to stay informed. And that's the problem. It's almost as if, and I'm saying this and I'm not going to apologize for it. It's almost as if white establishment has this overbearing paternalistic attitude towards black people. And we see it in many aspects of life. Not all, but I mean, in general, like Joe Biden telling black folks, if you don't vote for him, you're not black. Who are you to decide my blackness? You couldn't even relate to what I experienced as a black person, or even as a black man, specifically. So we got some hard conversations we need to have in our community as a collective about what is needed to give us the political capital and power that we need. And one of the things I always say is money talks. And until we can educate black people, you can cry and about your wants and needs, but don't nobody like a beggar. We've got to put some skin and money in the game. That's just
Doc,
it.
Doc, and I agree with you, but I'm gonna take it just a step further, and I'm gonna take it here, man. Just taking a glance at the black community and we can look at certain communities and listen to the conversations that have taken place time and time again, and we need to ask ourselves the question: why? What is it that we can do, and why haven't we done it as it relates to improving the standard or the quality of life in certain communities? And I'm talking about some simple things such as, how do we look at the level of education opportunity? How do we look at, reducing crime? What are the things that we can do to impact this? But also, I think we also need to look at the leadership in changing and improving the lives.
Here's what I've always thought about the last 50 years of black leadership. It has mostly been predatory. And just put that out there. If you look at many of the so-called black leaders, many don't hold day jobs. Al Sharpton hasn't had a job since I don't know when, Jesse Jackson even. Okay, many of these public figures who are our leaders are in fact leveraging our grievances to earn money. That's the first problem that we got. We got to recognize who pimping us and what the cost of being pimped is.
Now, Doc, before you move away from that, and this is an issue and the problem that I have with that too, though, is who elected these people as our leaders?
I know, and this is the same.
When you talk about black leaders,
I agree.
All of a sudden
I agree, but they have told us.
And these people became.
Remember, these are two by de facto. Remember, Martin Luther King held the mantle, and that's why I'm bringing echo.
But now hold on, wait, because you mentioned like on the national scale, but think about on the local level. It's the same thing on the local level. There are people in the community that they say, "Oh, these are the black leaders in the community," and I'm just like, that person don't know nothing about me.
Yeah.
But and I agree. Yeah, I can't fight you on that. But for much of our history in this country, we have been assigned black leaders. You take it all the way back to Booker T. Washington, okay, and all of these others that came along there. Roosevelt, he dealt with black leaders. Johnson dealt with King as a black leader. See, we've always been assigned a black leader.
Okay, but here's what I say.
And we're supposed to coalesce around this person as we are directed to do. And that's a problem.
Here's what I'll ask you and Greg, because I'm listening to the question, and I'm processing, and I'm thinking to myself, and Greg, you and I both have done this, where, Doc, come on, Greg and I have seen an issue, we've identified a problem, and we've hosted town halls where, hey, so you know where I'm going, and we didn't stand up there and say we are the leaders of this. We didn't do that. But we solicited the community to come to the table and tell the powers to be what they should do.
What they're concerned with.
But that's a new dynamic for our community. Let's be real. We three sit here and we have the enlightenment, the knowledge, and the education to understand what's being played. Okay? The reality is that for much of the history of black folks in this country, we have been told to follow certain people. If they are vouched for by the establishment, then we go that way, and we still are in that mindset.
But you
The
know,
majority, the majority is still in that mindset.
hey, but
This is
it gets crazy though, Doc, because you stand up and you take a position, and then everybody else who saw the harm, everybody else who saw the need, now all of a sudden you got two cats standing up there. That's your target.
But see, again, that goes back to the fact that, and I've heard it my whole life, black people need to work together. And I always say, why? You do your, it's like this. I always equate it this way. If I'm fighting one person, I got a chance, right? But if everybody in the room taking a bat and now they bopping me, I have no chance. So that's the strategy we need. Everybody need to get their bat and bop the problem from their position, and that's how you overcome and defeat it. Because it can't keep thriving if it's got so many directions to fight. Okay, you got an idea how to deal with crime in the community. I got an idea. We just keep flooding and we make sure that the idea of crime in the community is addressed. At some point, we're going to say, hey, we've had 100 different organizations and people come up here and address you about this. You haven't done anything. What's going on? You really don't care about crime. And then we so afraid to call people out.
But
Why?
This is what I think the power of this program is, and this is what I think the power of what happened with this last election is. The power of this program is that we always tell people we don't tell you what to think.
Mm-hmm.
We just give you the information. We tell you where to get the information, and we leave it up to you to educate yourself on what steps to take. That's exactly what African American male voters did this last time. They didn't listen to what the black leadership told them that they should be doing. They looked at their communities, they looked at their surroundings, they looked at their economic situations, they assessed the prior 3 years, and they made a determination that that's not what's important to me. And that's what I think that's what we need to do more of. I mean, I know that right now, there are certain fraternities, one of which is one that I belong to. I don't want to call it out just yet because I might embarrass them by doing this. But there are fraternities that are going out and they are educating people on the importance of voting, not who to vote for, but this is why it's important to vote. And I think that if that message is put out more, we don't have to worry about the black leaders coming in and guiding people to do anything, because then people will say, wait a minute, I'm looking at my community, I'm looking at my circumstance, my situation, and I'm going to make a decision on who to vote for based on what's happening here and not based on what you're telling me is happening that I really don't see.
By and large, we have not changed our problem solving and problem addressing strategies since the 1960s. We still march, hold rallies, boycotts. This clown. Let me stop because this y'all show.
Let me say this.
What's his name? Al Sharpton. Did y'all see the boycott? That's the silliest crap. What is that going to accomplish?
Nothing.
See, but it makes them think that they're taking a moment and making it a movement, and it's not.
You're right.
Literally
You're right.
is a waste of time.
Well, I'm gonna pace us because I don't want to get into the rapid fire. For those of you who are watching Let's Talk Nation, if you have a comment or a question on what you've listened to this evening, you're free to dial in 407-921-6195. But Greg, I want to roll us into we have Central Florida, Orlando, Central Florida politics. We got some elections that are going to be coming up.
Yeah. We have some key elections going to be coming up. Some aren't going to be here for another year and a half, 2 years, but it's time to really truly start thinking about what's going to be taking place and how this community is going to change. One of which is the City of Orlando mayor's race. And although while that election won't take place until November 2027, there are already people who are lining up because the current mayor, Buddy Dyer, who has served or who's in his 6th term right now, has indicated he's not running. Mm-hmm. So we know right now that there's going to be some new leadership in Orlando, assuming that Buddy Dyer does not change his mind, like Michael Jordan did and some other athletes, Floyd Mayweather Jr. But assuming that he stays true, we're going to have new leadership in City Hall in Orlando, one of the more progressive cities. And so One of the individuals who has indicated that they're going to run and has already filed, if I understand correctly, is Anna Escamani. And she has already put it out there that she's going to run, and she's been around the political scene for a number of years. She's in the Senate or the House.
In the House.
Yeah, she's in the House, and she has made it very clear that she's running for that seat. But there's some other individuals
So who are some of the
that
likely?
she's going to have to contend with. One of which is a city commissioner who has been sitting by for a number of years, and I think has patiently sat by and is going to make a run. He is a member of the Hispanic community, Tony Ortiz, former law enforcement, I believe. I don't think that he's gotten sideways with anybody. Have you ever heard of him getting sideways with anybody, Doug?
No.
Tony Ortiz.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a Tony Ortiz story. He's a funny guy, but by and large, he's about the community.
Yeah.
He really is, and he's well thought of in the Hispanic community, I know.
So who are some of the other ones great? That
Yeah,
you-
Tony Ortiz is one. Then you also have Robert Stewart. But Robert Stewart, he was really thinking about making a push, to my understanding, about 8 years ago.
Okay.
I think that he's resigned to the fact that his time may have passed to run for mayor. He didn't want to run against Buddy Dye, which is a smart decision on his part. But his name may come up as well as another one of the city commissioners, Bakari Burns, one of the newer commissioners. He came in gangbusters. I think that he has done a very good job in galvanizing his community and speaking for his community. But those are going to be some of the voices and some of the individuals that are running for that seat, to include Doc Polite, a name that we have not heard for a little bit of time, but is still a force in this community, a young lady by the name of Val Demings.
Oh, okay.
But on that note, I have to say, and something that came out today when it relates to, and you mentioned a race that's going to take place about a year or so from now, and that's going to be Orange County Mayor's office.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
names that made the front page today happen to be, you have Stephanie Murphy, who was in Congress.
I remember Stephanie Murphy, yeah.
You have Val Demings, who you just mentioned.
But now remember, we talked about this, and we talked about this last week when the name of Casey DeSantis came up to run behind her husband, Ron DeSantis. I don't think any community likes dynasties. But go ahead.
So, and then we have, of course, the clerk of the courts,
Tiffany Moore Russell.
and we have Orange County Commissioner Myra Uribe.
Okay.
We also have former Orange County Commissioner Scott Boyd.
Scott Boyd. Okay.
We also-
he has been off the scene for a little bit of time.
Yes, and we also have former property appraiser Rick Singh.
Rick Singh. I hadn't heard that name in a while.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and he actually lost re-election to the property appraiser's office.
Amy Mercado.
Yeah, you're correct.
Yeah.
And
But
last,
now remember, Rick Singh came in. When Rick Singh came in, he ran against was it Earl K. Wood?
Yeah.
was it okay?
No, Earl K. Wood
no.
was the
Who was the
tax
property?
collector.
Earl K. Woods was.
Yeah, but no. But the point is, BJ Singh, not BJ Singh.
Rick Singh?
Rick Singh came pretty much out of nowhere.
Yeah.
He had very little money that he raised, and he actually took whoever the incumbent was, he beat that person handily for that seat. So
Yeah.
I would never count out.
Wasn't they
Rick Singh.
appointed to fill out Earl K. Woods?
No.
No. Remember, that's the one that Scott Randolph actually put his name in the place of Earl K. Wood.
Okay.
So he basically won under Earl K. Wood, which Earl K. Wood was a property appraiser for 30 years. So why
Yeah.
wouldn't somebody vote for him? They didn't even know he had passed away.
And last but not least, and I just say it to complete and round out the circle of the front page, and that's former Orange County Commissioner Emily Bonilla. So, things are popping in Central Florida right now, and y'all notice how we find ourselves looking at campaigns starting earlier and earlier.
So let's put a pin on that real quick, because I want to circle back on this Orange County mayor race just a little bit. I don't know if people know this, but Scott Boyd and Tiffany Moore Russell were actually very, 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 very close. And I don't know if they had this. That's going to be a very interesting race if both of them jump into that race. In the same respect, if Val Demings were to jump into that race, that would be a very, very interesting race as well, because she and Tiffany Moore Russell, I'm assuming, have never crossed swords. And I think that, I think that that would be a difficult race for anyone to kind of purse out those two one against the other. I think that they kind of pull from the same pool of votes, just to be quite honest. So I think in that particular scenario, probably the ones to look at would probably be Stephanie Murphy, would be a good name. I think she's the only Republican on the list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
Scott Boyd.
yeah,
Scott Boyd.
Scott.
But I mean, it's a nonpartisan race. But I mean, let's be realistic
Yeah.
about things.
Yeah.
But I think that if we really truly look at it, the person that may benefit from all of those names, if they were to jump in that, would be Commissioner Reba.
yeah. Yeah.
I think that she would have a very good chance if all of those
Let-
names were to.
let's just pray for this next election cycle that we have for a change of pace, a shenanigans free election. Because right now in
Good-
District
good luck.
5, District
Yeah,
5,
good
there's some
luck.
shenanigans going on.
Good luck.
I'm gonna leave on what Greg say. Good
luck.
luck. Hey, and you know what? We've gotten to this point of the show that Greg.
Hey, Doc. Hey, listen, we got a pinky promise that next week we're gonna talk about this Florida Senate District 15 race.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Making national news.
That we got to
Making
talk
national
about.
news.
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
hey, for those of you,
Listen, because before you do that, we are the only show, and the people go back and check. We've had Randolph Bracy, LaVon Bracy Davis,
Yeah.
and LaVon Bracy on our show.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
right. You're
Yeah.
right.
The only show that can
Yeah,
say
that-
and we
that's
need to be
gonna-
lining up to get them back. Hey, for those of you who tuned in to Let's Talk Nation,
No, we gotta get
as
District
usual.
5.
We bring the heat, and next week, Greg, we have quite a bit because we have a District 5 Orlando race that's
yeah.
coming up too.
Yeah.
Hey,
So,
maybe, listen, maybe we need to have LTN death match. Remember that show, Celebrity Death Match?
yeah. Hey, y'all, we appreciate y'all tuning in. And hey, my brother Greg, you don't have to go home.
But you got to get out of here.
Until next week on Let's Talk Nation. Hey, y'all tune in. Let's have fun.